culprits in all of this. So we have to help to shape the debate. The only way we can do that is to help change the debate and introduce our voice in there. Not like somebody who's crazed and just shouting and screaming, but somebody who can argue in the way that the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba used to present their arguments, the way that the Quran presents its argument. هَاتُوا بُرْهَانَكُمْ إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Bring forth your evidence if you're truthful. And challenge them. تَعَالُوا إِلَى كَلِمَةٍ سَوَاءٍ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَكُمْ. Come to one word that's between us and you. ثُمَّ نَبْتَهِلْ. And then we argue, debate and discuss it. The problem is often we'll find somebody, a brother who knows the arguments, but he's not confident. He's afraid. Well, this is the road, my brothers. This is the road. This is the road of the prophets. If you're not prepared to stand up in front of all what the enemies will attack you with, then why did you choose this faith? Didn't at the second pledge of Aqad of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Sahaba said, before you take this pledge, know what? That brother will turn against brother, that father will turn against son. And if you don't want to do it, don't do it. But if you do as Ayyub al-Ansari said, then do as I do and take this pledge. So we have to understand that in all of this, the practical steps will require taking on people, saying things in front of people where you are the minority, where you will be beaten down for your point of view. But MI5, the police and so forth will only be as strong as public opinion here. And public opinion is most of the time against us. And I don't even know if public opinion will ever change in our favor. But what we can do is on case-by-case specific issues. Like I said, for example, Guantanamo. They think everybody there's a terrorist. To this day, wherever I go. I mean, one example is, they won't allow me to speak in many places. I don't think anything I say is extreme in any way, but it doesn't matter. We're living in this is the atmosphere in which we're living, where everybody's afraid. So we have to help the situation, take one issue, hold it, fight for it until it's done, and then move on to the next. Inshallah.
More questions?
I think it was in the Independent, a recent article on Shakir, how his release potentially could incriminate the MI5 as to the tactics they played. What's the latest on his case?
Shakir, Fakallahu Asra, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala secure his release and the release of all the Mazlumeen, all the prisoners who face this sort of oppression. The latest on Shakir's case is that he's on the hunger strike and he's also being force-fed. Now, force-feeding means that his hands are shackled to a chair. His legs are shackled to a chair, his ankles. His head is strapped at the back, and they insert into his nose, his nostril, a tube, a thick plastic tube. That is forced through his throat into his stomach, and then they pump in warm liquid food, and then they pull out this tube, which is covered with blood and mucus, and then they clean it and wash it and insert it into the next person. This process is extremely painful. 10 people in this country died on hunger strike during the height of the IRA campaign. They never force-fed them. They abused them, they beat them, they did all sorts of things to the IRA. I'm not saying that these guys didn't suffer, they did. But they didn't force-feed them. The result of their death, which happened under Maggie Thatcher's time, which everybody's celebrating her life, or was it her death? I can never remember. Regardless, that was one of her legacies. What happened to the hunger strikers? The hunger strikers now in Guantanamo, they don't mind if these brothers die. They're very happy for them to die. But what they don't want is for the world to know. So what they're doing is forcing them to remain alive. And Shakir was one of the brothers who was leading the hunger strikes in the past. So on the one hand, subhanAllah, I see his children and his, speak with his wife, and it's heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking. I don't know any case like it here in the UK. And I think if it would have happened to a non-Muslim, to particularly upper middle class white British family, it would never be accepted, not for 10 days, let alone 10 years or 11 years. Shakir says by the same token, he wants to return, he wants to hug his children, he wants to see his children. But he says also, if I die here, let them know that I died fighting for a principle, which that they should be proud of. And I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows him respite and deliverance soon. But we are also preparing for some brothers to return from Guantanamo in their coffins. Again, brothers and sisters, all of this, Guantanamo is so far away and we think we can't do anything about it and so forth. But it's just another one of those issues. Babar Ahmed, Talha Hassan, Adil Abdul Bari, Khalid Fawaz, Abu Hamza, were all handed over to the United States of America after having served in this country collectively close to 50 years in prison. If you added up the amount of time that these men had served in prison, Babar Ahmed 8 years, Khalid Fawaz 14 years, Adil Abdul Bari 13 years without charge here in the UK. They'd served over 50 years. Now they've been sent to the United States of America, where the process begins from scratch. And no Muslim accused of terrorism in the United States will ever get a fair trial. Ever. If you look at all the statistics. So, what did we do? We didn't do anything about it. As a community, some people, alhamdulillah, for Babar Ahmed, we signed a petition. The most we did, signed a petition of 100,000 people, and that's fine. We didn't march on the streets of 100,000 people, which that's where we would be putting your money where your mouth is. With Shaka, we also signed a petition of over 100,000 people, alhamdulillah. But everybody can do that. It takes literally 30 seconds to sign a petition. It's easy. It doesn't require any sacrifice at all. We didn't do anything about it. So the answer in all of these questions is, if we don't do anything about it, then don't be surprised if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim." Allah won't change our state until we change within ourselves. So we will have to, at some point, take chances which require sacrifice.
What kind of actions do you think we as a community, whether small or large, should be doing regarding the harassment, regarding our fellow Muslims in prison, etc.? What are the practical steps that everyone could easily take?
Okay, like as I said to you before, one of the organisation I work with that in this matter is exclusive. You won't find any other organisation fighting for the rights of the brothers in prison elsewhere in this way. The things that we say that you can do, of course, is to help us and assist us as an organisation. On a practical, local level, you need to hold regular meetings with people within the community, from outside the community. As I said to you, there are people from the non-Muslims who see what's happening, and you can ally with them in these matters. It doesn't mean that we need them to be our face. We need to be our face. We are our best. We should be our best spokesman. They shouldn't be precluded or excluded from taking part and assisting. If you know a particular case, that's the best thing to do, is to work on a particular case of an individual or a principal. If the principal is detention without trial, work on that. If it's an individual case that you know, support the family, support the relatives, support the concepts behind it. Arm yourself with the knowledge of the case in particular and become its advocate. So speak about it in the local media and the local press. Call the press. The press are always looking for a good story. Call them. Make relationships with the media people. It's a double-edged sword. Present the argument, present the case. And you can see you can help to change. If you get a story into the local press, and the local press then take it straight into the national media and it becomes international, it happens often. And the world that we live in today, we are all journalists. We all are. Somebody can record something, can write something, send it to a particular place. It's very easy. The media isn't like it used to be 10, 15 years ago. And in addition to that, as I said to you, if you're not doing something yourself, find out those people in your community who are and empower them, support them. Get the sisters involved also. Let them. The sisters are the most sympathetic in all of these cases. You'll find that they will be very proactive. The organisation Hugs, for example, helping households under great stress, is almost exclusively run by sisters. And this is an organisation that assists prisoners and their families and those who've fallen foul of anti-terror legislation. All sisters taking families to places, taking children, arranging away days, arranging visits, all of these sorts of things they've been doing, and they are a credit to our community. But in the same way, there are things and engaging in things that perhaps we don't naturally like to do, going and speaking with members of parliament going and speaking with lawyers and so forth. We don't naturally like to do that, or some people don't naturally like to do that. But you will have to step outside your comfort zone, because here is about defending individuals who are oppressed, as well as a community that's spotlight.
We'll have one more question and then we'll finish, inshallah. But before I end, even though this wasn't a Cape Prisoners fundraising event, Moazzam didn't mention that Cape Prisoners relies on our voluntary contributions, brothers. Inshallah, we'll be having another event that will be solely geared as a fundraiser. But if brothers want to contribute to this noble cause, you can either take Moazzam's number, or you can visit the Cape Prisoners website and follow the instructions, either set up a direct debit, even the hugs, the arm of Cape Prisoners that helps families, again, relies on our contributions. So if brothers want to set up standing orders, direct debits, please visit the Cape Prisoners website. Jazakumullah khair. Brother Ahmed, last question.
I just want to know what the progress is on a legislation they're trying to pass called secret courts. I know that it's been going on for a while and it's turned about household lords, and I think it's going to have a great impact on the Muslim community especially.
It's a very good question. The brother just talked about the bill. The bill is called the Justice and Security Bill. The reason why they're passing it is precisely of the issues that I was talking about. We, the former Guantanamo prisoners, and several others who had been beaten and tortured and abused around the world with the knowledge and presence of British intelligence services. So these cases, they span from Pakistan, Bangladesh, Egypt, Morocco, Jordan, and Guantanamo. We all took them to court. We took MI5 to court. We fought a big case against them, and we won a compensation against them. Now, what happened is that the British government, I remember we met with Kenneth Clark and all these other guys, who were very clear in what they were planning to do. And that is, next time that something like this happens, where they are forced to produce in court evidence that they knew we were being tortured. In fact, we were being tortured because of them. The questions that were being asked of us were being asked by the Americans through the British, or in some cases directly by the British, physically present. So what they said is that in future we don't want to have such cases brought to British courts. Such cases will have to be heard in secret. So what they've tried to do is pass this Security and Justice Bill, whereby in a secret hearing, where your lawyer won't get access, where you won't have access, you won't know what's going on, you'll simply have to take the government on trust, and they will say that these laws, that these actions, if an MI5 agent says, well, I did this for national security, and the government appointed representatives will say, well, I agree with you, case open and closed. That was passed as an act of law, I believe, on the 26th of April last year, so it is now law. And again, we didn't do enough to oppose it, because we didn't even know it existed for the most part. And that's very sad.
Inshallah, we'll finish there. Once again, on behalf of all brothers and sisters, Jazakumullah khair for attending. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you and aid your cause. If anybody's got questions afterwards, please, you can see Brother Moazzam or ask him any further questions, but inshallah we'll finish officially there. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, wal asr inna al-insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Jazakumullah khair.